Congressman, good to talk with you again.
Hey, great to be able to talk to you as well.
Congressman Issa, Senator Grassley are determined, they're livid about this, to find out how and to find out why a key player in Fast and Furious, Bill McMahon, has been allowed to double dip. Collecting his government paycheck while working with J.P. Morgan. Do you find yourself asking where and when is all of this going to end?
It is. It's one of those unique situations where we're talking about January and February of 2011. We began the process with ATF specifically to identify where mistakes were made in the Phoenix office of ATF and how to be able to solve this and to hold people to account. Ultimately, Brian Terry's family not only deserves this, to know that when Brian Terry and his murder there, but to also know that people are being held to account that were around it, not just the murderer, but the people that allow these weapons to be able to slip through. Serious issues occurred here. And Bill McMahon, when he did not approve, and this is clear, he did not read through the wiretap applications that were supposed to go through his office. He was supposed to read, review, and approve those. He just approved it, sight unseen, rubber stamped him coming through Phoenix and allowed it to occur. So he is on administrative leave right now, receiving full pay, a six-figure pay from ATF, still gathering his retirement accrual, building up towards full retirement, and now is also being allowed to basically moonlight for six figures while he builds up his retirement with ATF, and still nothing has occurred for him. So not only is he not being held to account, he's actually been given a benefit through this process.
Yeah, some people, many of the agents and the whistleblowers are calling it, a double standard or special treatment. And I remember you saying, hey, we're going to get to the bottom of this, somebody, and we're going to find out who's responsible. But do you see this as a possible conflict of interest?
No, it's not just a possible conflict of interest. This is an area where the whistleblowers have been held to account, and individuals like this have been told, hey, go ahead and get an outside job. We know you're not going to ever come back to ATF, but gather your retirement and go from there. So it is being tacitly approved of what he did. When the whistleblowers are being told, we're not going to deal with anything, clearing your name, doing nothing for that until after the investigation is over.
Yeah, when I say conflict of interest, the fact that you've got McMahon now working at a position with J.P. Morgan, could that end up being a conflict of interest in itself?
Well, probably not, because in all likelihood he would, as soon as he finished up his ATF time, he would head over there anyway and would take that on. The fascinating thing is they're allowing him to basically double dip. Mm-hmm. He's receiving full federal pay right now and doing no federal work, and full federal retirement benefits are still accruing and also doing completely private work. So that's the really bizarre part of this, is that you've got someone who is intimately involved in the decision-making of Fast and Furious, and he's not only not being held to account, he's received an extra benefit.
You look at this administration overall. We've had cover-ups, Fast and Furious, lies told to Congress, one scandal after another. We've got national security leaks, and we have a president who promised that he would have the most transparent administration ever.
Well, this is a president that did take a while before he used his first executive privilege request to say, I'm not going to turn anything over, but it's very bizarre in the timing that he did it and the way that he did it, to step up and say, right in the middle of a Fast and Furious investigation, on the day that Eric Holder is being held to contempt of Congress for not turning over documents that are simple documents to turn over, that day he steps up and says, no, I'll tell you what, this is all going to be executive privilege and we're not going to turn it over. The internal report, the IG's report for the Department of Justice, has received all the documents that we have not received in Congress. So these are not some documents that they're not willing to go through an investigation process. They're only just willing to do it internally, to say we'll do our own internal investigation on all these documents and we won't turn them over. So they're not denying the existence of these documents. They're just refusing to turn them over to Congress. That's why we've held Eric Holder in contempt of Congress on criminal charges and on civil charges.
And you mentioned the IG's report. It's now in the hands of the DOJ and the Attorney General, Eric Holder. You won't know and we won't know what's in that report for something like 30 days. But, it'll be interesting to see. You mentioned the documents that your committee has not been able to get. Do you think there's any chance this report might shed some light on what's in those documents and why this administration is so determined to keep them secret?
I've actually met personally with Michael Horowitz, who's the DOJ IG that is leading this report, and have asked him that question specifically. I asked him several things. One is, have you had access to the people that we have been denied to from Congress? And he said yes. I asked him, do you have access to all the documents that we've been told either don't exist or that they refuse to turn over? And with that, he told me yes. I said, will your report include not only the summary and the details of those documents, but also recommendations from how to fix this mess? And he also said yes to that. So what has happened is there are 30 days it's been turned over to the Department of Justice. They will review it, looking for basically anything that's in a grand jury process or something that the administration is going to ask to not be in there due to executive privilege. But the IG ultimately has the final decision of what's in his final report. DOJ can't edit it, and the White House can't edit it. The IG decides what is in this report and what is not in this report. Now, you remember there's also a 3-level report that's coming out from Oversight and Government Reform as well.
Right.
The first tier of that's already come out, dealing specifically with ATF. We have 2 more of those to go, where we're releasing documents as we know them and as we've seen them.
Do you have any idea when the second part of that report, I know it's a 3-parter, will be coming out?
That should come out within the next month. We're going to continue to press on that to be able to get the details out on that out. American people have asked us repetitively, what are the issues and what are the details, what is known? There's so much flying around there on the Internet, and so many people are talking about things, saying you lose track of what's fact and what's fiction. And so the Oversight and Government Reform Committee and their staff has done a great job of gathering the facts and trying to compile those together to get those reports out.
What do you make of the fact, you've said you've talked with Michael Horowitz, what do you make of the fact, though, that he took over the Inspector General's investigation just a couple of months, just something like 3 months ago? What do you think the impact of that is?
Well, it definitely slows down the investigation. He's got a lot of staff around him that have been there from the beginning, but we're going to hold him to account. He has long-term ties back into Eric Holder's office and other things. And so our first question is, we're going to expect him to do the right thing, to give an unbiased, clear report with the facts in it. And I will always assume that of every Inspector General. But we will also carefully read that report and find out what documents were not turned over to him, what's not available to him, and look at his reporting on it. It has been made very clear that the Attorney General has been very forthcoming with anything from the previous administration that they could possibly find, but very slow in their own administration. So this very transparent administration really means we'll be transparent on what happened before us, but not transparent with what happens while we were here.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like an administration who thinks it's above the law, never mind being transparent.
Correct, and that's how they have functioned through the whole process on it. And we have tried to reiterate to them over and over again, as Americans, we are a nation under laws, not a nation under leaders. Leaders cannot decide which laws they like and do not like, and they'll abide by those that they like and ignore those they do not. That's not who we are. That's who Venezuela is. That's not who we are as the United States of America. Every American is under the law.
And Congressman, you don't see the media covering this Bill McMahon story, this double-dipping story. You don't see them really dwelling on the issue of executive privilege that the president has used for the first time. But I was talking with Senator Grassley, and he was saying he was back home going to all these town meetings, and he said, you know what, we may not be hearing about this in the media, but the American, he said he was hearing so much about it from the people he was meeting with. What are you seeing?
I had a town hall meeting this week as well. It also came up during that meeting also. Mm-hmm. The American people are tracking with this. Again, the mainstream media is not the only source of information anymore. People can go to sources like this. People can go to other sources on the Internet, reliable sources of news, to be able to get details out. So the mainstream media is not the only one out there anymore. Yeah. And that's a very important resource.
You think this should become a campaign issue, what's going on here with Fast and Furious, with this double-dipping issue?
I think the executive privilege is the bigger issue here.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one more case of many. This is like the GSA case, where on this administration that's going to watch every dime and be very attentive and careful of everything, spent $850,000 on a trip to Las Vegas, while the president at the exact same moment was telling the American people and corporations they shouldn't go to Las Vegas for conventions. They were actually doing a GSA convention for $850,000 in Las Vegas. So it's the same type of thing, just a double standard, and I think that is a legitimate campaign issue.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they need to start talking about it, but you said the American people are getting smart to this anyway, but have you ever seen an election that's so important in your lifetime?
I did. It was the last one. And we just didn't realize how important it really was until after it was over. And we heard people say this is the most important election in our lifetime, and I think some people didn't believe it and they didn't get engaged, and now we found out it was. And now it makes this election even bigger.
Yeah, your message to voters and folks out there?
Is to absolutely get registered, get engaged. There are lots of ways to do it. There are people that live in states that are not seeing commercials all the time and are wondering where's the campaign, where there are about 12 different states that the campaign is focused completely on those 12. If you have friends and family and relationships in those states that are swing states, get involved. As odd as it sounds, I live in Oklahoma. We haven't seen a lot of campaign commercials here because there is no doubt how Oklahoma will vote in this next election. So a lot of folks say, when is the campaign coming here? If you were in some of those swing states, there are as many commercials right now in August running as there was the week before the election in 2008. So there's a lot of activity happening out there, and it requires a lot of volunteers and people to get engaged.